Welcome to the Honest Designers Show, your transparent look into life as a modern designer. My name's Tom Ross, and I'm the founder at designcuts.com. And this week, I'm joined by my fellow Brit and expert hand letterer, Ian Barnard, American retro design expert, Dustin Lee, and the ever-talented South African illustrator, Lisa Glanz. In this week's episode, we chat all about how to hire if you're working in the creative industry. So many of our listeners are looking to start growing their creative businesses beyond just themselves, and whether you're looking to build a team or just delegate some of those jobs that don't inspire you so much, this episode is a guide on how to do it. We also help our very own Lisa Glanz with her fear of delegation and try to work around the problems she currently is struggling with in growing her operation beyond just herself. There's a lot of stuff to relate to in there, hopefully, so let's get into the show. So this week we're talking all about hiring and delegating. And essentially, this is for all the creatives out there who are either looking to expand what they're doing, maybe expand their creative business, agency, whatever it might be, or just delegate to alleviate some of the stress of day-to-day stuff. And I think both can be really beneficial if done right. And I know that I'm here, of course, with my lovely, incredibly good-looking co-hosts. And I know we've all got different levels of experience when it comes to this stuff. So who wants to kick off and kind of share their level? Everyone. Always, I'm going to stop. We got a hand from Dustin. I'm going to stop opening it up to the floor because everyone's
terrible at it.
Everyone's too polite. No, after you, I insist. Right, okay. Dustin, kick it off.
Okay, so I started by myself, and then I had a lot of email support tickets coming in and different things, and I started hiring one of those agencies where they'll give you a virtual assistant, and that person worked for me for like 10 hours a week. And then that wasn't enough, and I needed someone with more skills in design, and I moved up to a 20-hour-a-week contractor, and then things grew more from there, and I eventually hired someone else that was a 40-hour-a-week contractor. And on top of that, I also regularly hire freelancers to do one-off projects.
Okay, nice. So you've experienced quite a few different stages there.
Pretty good mix.
Yeah, nice. Ian, how about you?
For me, so I started on my own, and still mainly I am on my own. I just sometimes outsource my work. I have a designer called Megan who does some of my previews for my typefaces and other products. Just because sometimes I'm so indwelt in the project, I need to pass it out to someone else to do and have fresh eyes. Mm-hmm. I also sometimes pass out the kerning work of my type design, maybe because sometimes it gets too much and I need to focus on something else. I get someone else to do the legwork for that, and so it's just I don't do much hiring or don't do much outsourcing, but it's just those few bits for some of my products that I push it out to other people. Cool. I don't do any virtual assistants because I don't really get any like the support I can cope with. It's like one or two people a day I need to reply to, so it's not really worth it for me.
Sure. Okay. I like that though. We're obviously going to get into everyone's experience in more detail, but hopefully that is good for people to see. It's not all about hiring a full-time team or anything. It's just alleviating some of those strains within what you're doing. So Lisa, how about you? You're somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah, I'd say that the most hiring experience I've had was when I was still working as a graphic designer and then art director. Obviously, I had to hire, designers to work under me. So I have had that experience, but since I've been full-time illustrator, I've only asked, I couldn't really hire somebody, but she kind of helped me do a bit of Photoshop work on one or two of my products. Mm-hmm. But basically I suck at hiring, so yeah.
And
I'm
I
actually
keep nagging you to try and do it at some point.
yes, exactly. I wish I was better at. It's not really the hiring that I'm bad at. It's the I know I'm not very good at training. So yeah,
I feel like you're kind
it's
of a
that.
control freak.
Yes, I am.
Someone had
Let's
to
just
say
get
it.
down to the nitty gritty. Yes, I'm a control freak.
It must be quite hard though for you because your business is based around your style of illustration.
Yeah, that's
Whereas
the thing.
for me, when I'm doing a typeface, half of it is my design, and then half of it is just the mechanics that anyone can do.
Yeah.
So it's easier to outsource. And I suppose with Dustin, there's the email support, which is something anyone could do, and all the other general design is something that can do the previews and the packaging of all the stuff he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for you it must be quite hard because you can't get someone else to do your style very easily.
No.
Draw this flower, draw this person. It's so unique to you, I suppose.
Yeah, that's the trickier part because it's true. Like with either Ian or Lisa, you both have unique styles that are. I mean, you couldn't really hire someone to videotape their hand and draw like you. It would be insane. I mean, you could. It would take a lot of work, and people wouldn't appreciate it. But mine is a much more generalized type of business of creating tools. So I've had someone like, for instance, for a year where she's gotten so good, I can't distinguish. Like I'll look at things and be like, I can't remember. Did you do that or did I do that?
That's
so yeah,
brilliant.
I think it depends on how generalized the business is.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And where you're very much a personal brand versus more of a general brand, Dustin, you're retro supplies, so that works. Lisa, not only is it your work, but even your customer support. You could hire someone, but it's more tricky to do so because people are trying to email and get in touch with you directly. So if they get a response from Sally, then it's going to confuse them. So yeah, I do see your conundrum, but hopefully we can actually find some solutions for you this episode, and hopefully that will relate to a lot of the people listening as well.
Yes.
So I think I forgot to share my experience. So it's been a lot more extensive through Design Cuts than anything I did previously. Previously, I would do occasionally a bit of outsourcing, everything from working with a team of tutorial writers for my blog to outsourcing some admin stuff. And then Design Cuts, we've now got 10 full-time people and I think 6 remote people.
Wow, it's a lot.
And something I've said to you guys is it literally is trial and error. So it's kind of learning as you go. A lot of it I don't think can be taught. You kind of do have to figure it out as you experience it. And in a similar way, it's like we've got 2 temps working with us this week. I've never hired a temp before, so I kind of had to figure that stuff out. And that's a slightly different dynamic than a full-time team member joining you. So I'm certainly not mega experienced. Some of the directors of our company have 25 years HR experience, and so I love to defer to them on a lot of these matters. But like having done it for 4 years now, I'm in a very different headspace with it compared to before I did it, and that's purely through just experience and learning on the job.
Yeah, that's cool.
So hopefully there's that spectrum there where we're all at slightly different points. We've all got slightly different goals with it. But I think for everyone listening, the main takeaway from today will hopefully be that you should probably be hiring someone. If you can afford it financially, you should do it because generally it's the only way to grow. And even if you're not so worried about growing a team, and I guess more like Ian, it's just such a stress relief when you can pass over some of the more arduous work or the work maybe you don't enjoy as much or the more mechanical stuff. Passing that off to someone else lets you focus on what you truly love, which for most of the listeners, I imagine, would be designing.
Well, it becomes a real mental relief. I know the reason I did it initially, Suzanne, who works for me full time now, is absolutely amazing. I can't imagine the business without her. But I originally, and still to this day, a big part of why I did it was because I just felt like when you work for yourself as a freelancer doing whatever, you can't get away from it. You're constantly, seeing the emails come in and feeling an urge to respond. And I just feel like I need to be able to step away from this like so desperately. And when you have someone that's got your back, that's there regularly, you see an email come in, you can forward it and say, hey, can you handle this? Because, there's always these little that you have to open up Illustrator, open up Photoshop, do this, go do some research, send this part, and then see what they think, get more research. And it's such a relief to know you can go somewhere with your family or do something and not worry about those emails.
It is actually the best thing in the world, because I could only start doing that in the last 9 or 10 months. And it's been gradually easing off, but I would always have to have my phone on me. I would be away with my friends or my girlfriend, and I'd be checking emails every day. And even if it is for like an hour or two a day, you never fully shut down and you never fully get a proper vacation. And
That's my life.
It's not great for your mental health, I don't think. So again, hopefully we can help to get you there, Lisa.
Please.
Ian, do you feel on the same boat where you constantly have to do a little bit, even when you're on break?
I do, but I don't feel stressed about it.
You're just too chilled, a character.
I was like,
You're
Ian's
not
my hero. Ian always is so chill about everything.
Absolutely.
And he's just killing it at the same time.
But then my business is smaller than all yours. So I probably got the smallest business here.
Why do you say that?
I don't know. That depends how you define business. I mean, you have a massive
But I suppose
following.
for me, at the moment, I'm just sort of, I feel like I'm in a sort of a weird transfer as like, I like work because I'm focusing on my YouTube, which is not really bringing me any money at the moment, but I can see the strengths of it, and which means that I have to take a sacrifice in my business until that becomes an income. So I've lost track of where I was.
A salient point. Talking about hiring and going away.
Yes. So the only things I really have to, because I suppose email, majority of the stuff I get through on email is people inquiring about work. And so, I could leave just an email responder on that at the moment. Because I normally not only away for about a week, 2 at the max. Creative market, I just pop in, or what other place I'm selling on, and it's literally a couple of questions a day, and it's just like, it's not normally with fonts. There's not normally much that could go wrong.
Right.
If they're having trouble installing it, you just send them a link, say this is how you do it.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, I give them another product for free, doesn't cost me anything, and say I'll be back at this point and I can fix it. There's nothing really that I like, oh no, that's gone wrong and I can't, it's going to stress me out for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
I found it more stressful when I was doing web design work, because I'd be away and suddenly the web design would be like, they'd say, where is it? It's gone and there's nothing there. And you're like, no, and you're, then all you're thinking about is that, and you haven't a clue why it's gone down, and you're,
Ian, I guess the beauty of social is you can do most of your content up front and either schedule it or at least it's produced, and you can, like on Instagram, I don't think you can really schedule, but I guess if it's pre-filmed, you can publish it then.
You can, but I really struggle to pre-film. You have loads of people who are really good at it. I'm not. I literally, by the sort of seat of my pants, if that's a phrase that everyone else knows.
I'm with you.
Yeah. It's literally that day, that hour before I post it, I think, okay, what are we going to do today? I have a look around. I might think, okay, this pen, I'll choose that. And give me a word. I need a word.
To be fair, I don't know why I asked, because I feel like myself and all of us and all the listeners know you so well at this point. I could have probably predicted that answer, but I love it, and I think a lot of that flows into your work, how it just happens organically in the moment, and you're not super structured. I think that shows in a positive way.
And I think it goes along with the problem I have is the things I prepare and spend time on are not normally things that are popular. It seems to be the case that I just like, I'll try this, and just like, it's just something random and it's just like the spare of the moment. Yeah. And that can blow up, whereas something I actually craft and spend time on doesn't really do it. And it's this weird, like my 2 most popular fonts took me the less time than all my other fonts. And they're the best selling ones. And I'm like, but there was another font, I did loads of different styles to it, and it was really clean, and I drew everything by hand on the computer, and and it didn't do as well as something else that took me 5 minutes. So it's
true.
just,
There's just no correlation.
I know.
I guess there is, but a lot of times there isn't. Can I share something I just literally, it applies to this, read about this last night in this fantastic new book that came out. I don't know the author's name, but it's called Principles by some billionaire investor. And he talked about something called triangulation, if I'm saying it correctly. And it applies to having a business. And you can do it whether you have employees or you don't, although having some employees helps. So what he was saying was when you're trying to do something in your business, if you can find two people with opposing or different views on things along with yourself, and get everyone's opinion, you'll find fresh ideas and more reasonable ideas that are more likely to be successful. So for instance, for me, like as soon as I read that, I noticed that. So I could talk to Tom, who has a larger business and employees and a different perspective on running his business than I do. So he'll tell me these ideas that I would never think of. And then I can talk to Suzanne, who works for me, who's on really, understanding the deep in the really in it, of making the products. And then I have kind of this middle place where I'm at, and you get this mix of ideas. So like between those, for instance, we had started selling something called the I Want It All box, which was physical boxes. I'd never thought of making a digital product into a physical thing, but that was kind of a result of that triangulation that happens. And by triangulation, 3 people kind of giving you this perspective on things that really helped sales and was like a really unique thing to do. So one of the hidden advantages, I think, of working with people, whether you pay them or just are talking to people and get information, is that you get unique ideas, especially when people are open to giving you different opinions. That makes sense.
I like that. Yeah, it's smart. And I think it's intelligent, really, to pull from opposite directions with stuff. I think for anything in life, that would probably be a good theory.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So shall we, before I go into kind of hardcore tips for how to hire, how to train, all that kind of stuff, shall we get into a little bit more about the benefits of hiring? So one is clearly you're able to go on vacation and actually shut down your brain. That's definitely a benefit. Shall we go a little bit deeper on actually getting stuff off your plate, which I think applies to all of us? Like Lisa, I'm gonna target you here because you're not doing this currently. No. But something I mentioned to you is, why don't you get them to do some of the technical stuff, such as you've created an Illustrator product and they convert it into Photoshop format, because you wouldn't lose any of your style.
That I actually don't mind doing. It's just that the amount of time that I would need that to happen is not often enough to have somebody full time. So then I have this fear, if that's the right word, so I'm going to go to all this trouble of getting to know this person, show them how I work, and then I give them work every 3 months for a couple of days. So is that really worth the effort? Because ultimately what I'd want is somebody to do that. And I mean, I know I'm asking for a miracle, but that, and maybe answer a couple of emails and kind of like do a little bit of everything. And I don't know if that person even exists, and if they would even be willing to do, like the mundane stuff of emails when they, I don't know.
What you mean, customer service? An entire industry implying what, millions of people? Yeah, there's people out there who do that, I can assure you.
No, what I mean is, like a designer who'd be willing to do that, because I would need somebody.
I have a perfect 100%. Example of this. So Suzanne, who works for me right now, she's a designer by trade, went to school for it, and I was overwhelmed with doing customer service, but I'm a designer, and I asked her to help me, and she did it, and I was like, I'm so sorry. And she said, every job I've ever had, you have to do emails with customers. This is no different. It just comes with doing design work, which totally just made me like, oh my gosh, it's true. I've never had a design job where I didn't have to talk to people through email. And she's like, I don't mind. That's just part of being a designer. You talk to people in email.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the time, these might be people where for some reason they might not be ready or willing or able to get a job as a full-time designer just yet. So they would have ended up doing a job such as customer service or something else. And if you can give them a steady job which pays their bills but has a real like fun creative element in it, and they're technically working in the creative industry, which is what they're passionate about, then that's the best of both worlds, because it's like, well, great, they've got a job, but like if I had creative leanings or I was a designer who just needed a job to pay the bills, it would be my dream to work with someone like you, because I'd be like, well, great, yes, I'm doing emails, but I'm also testing products and being exposed to your amazing work and dealing with the loveliest people on earth, rather than working for like a call center or something.
Right.
True. Because I just don't want to feel responsible for that person relying on my, because obviously I'd have to pay, I don't know, per hour or whatever. So, I mean, if I can't give them enough for, jobs or work, I don't want to feel responsible that they're not going to make the ends meet,
No, because you're not responsible for their livelihood. If anything, you don't need to deal with that pressure because it's a flexible contract. The pressure does come when you have full-time staff and it's like, I'm responsible for this person's living now.
Yeah.
But Dustin, he basically sent me his friend and connection who hooks people up with designers looking for this exact kind of work, where they're not ready for a full-time career necessarily, but they're just looking for some additional work which interests them and pays the bills. And a lot of them are design graduates and students and this kind of thing. And through this connection of Dustin's, who I do think you guys should talk about this after the show, we ended up getting a designer, Ali from Alabama, and she's like the loveliest girl in the world. Instantly has like alleviated a lot of the pressure on the team because they didn't have time to do all this work. And she's like a joy to work with. She does a great job. And it's that thing where once you successfully delegate, you think we could never go back.
Yeah.
Or you think, how did we manage before?
And I actually met her like 2 weeks ago in person, and she was so excited about the work. She so loved that exactly what you said, Tom. She was just like, it's so cool to be working for Design Cuts. This is like the neatest thing ever. And she really just was like, I just like want to make sure I'm doing the best job because this is so neat. So it's like, it really was like a win-win.
Yeah. Like I think back to when I was her age, I would have loved to work for a company like ours. Like I didn't have anything like that on my radar. And yeah, you told me that, Dustin. That was like amazing to hear. That made me feel so happy that she's enjoying it. But the point is, she just, ranks her hours as she goes and then sends us an invoice each month with how much work she's done.
And you don't feel responsible or guilty if you don't give her the same amount of work the next month, or I don't know. Maybe I just need to get over this.
Lisa, I think you just need to have a relationship with a designer that is flexible. And you say, this is it. It's just very... So for me and my designer, Megan, she works in a stationery store during the day. And I said up front, it's very, it's not going to be like super regular because it's all based on when my ideas come in and then I need some work done.
Exactly.
And she does it in her spare time. So her main income doesn't come from me.
Okay.
It's just, I suppose, a bonus, and does it fits it in her spare time. I suppose that's what you want. Then you don't have to worry because they've got a job.
Well, and I can speak for that responsibility feeling because I have felt like that. So I am committed to giving somebody 40 hours a week, week in and week out. And it took me about a year of being scared to death as I did it. That it was just so scary because we were like, what if something happens? Like, I'm going to like make this person's life so much trouble. And I told him up front, I was like, just so you know, like, I will be the last person to go. Like, so whoever it is, you will go before me. Like my family will be the last to go in terms of taking money. But what happened was it really made me feel like I laser focused on what is profitable and what is worth doing and what is worth not doing.
Yeah, like how do I get an ROI on that person?
Yeah, and now the business is doing better than it's ever done because we've really done that. Yeah. So it was scary, and it was like kind of like walking like an Indiana Jones, like out into that invisible bridge. Remember the movie? He has to step out on it. You're like, will it work or will I fall into the lava pit?
And Lisa, I'm going to say a couple of things. So one is, I think it's a mindset thing. So if you shift from being scared, or if you eventually take that plunge, it's actually a really positive thing. So it's not living on the back foot of, oh, like, what if I fail them? It's more, well, actually, I'm providing them with something positive. I'm sure if we turned around to Ali tomorrow and said, yeah, we don't want to work with you anymore, she would not like that because she enjoys working with us. So you should look at it as you actually doing something positive and helping that person, as opposed to like, I'm somehow You're like skewing this weirdly into like you're the bad guy for giving them work.
That is what I do.
So I honestly, I wouldn't even worry about that. And the other thing which we've hugely found is I think if they work out and they're good and you enjoy working with them, you naturally gravitate towards giving them more and more work rather than less.
Yeah.
So I appreciate,
true.
Ian, you might be particularly sporadic based on when your products go out. But I think, Lisa, you'd be slightly more consistent with needing that ongoing help with emails and a bit of design work here and there. And so what we found with Ali, we haven't been working with her that long, but straight away it's like, okay, so we're going to give you this basic design work, which we agreed. And now whenever something comes up, and like I used to do a lot of our graphics for social media, even though I really didn't have the time. So now our social media person started asking, oh, Tom, can you do a graphic? And I'm like, no, I don't have time. Ask Ali. And then something else comes up and it's like, no, ask Ali. So she's actually finding she's getting more and more stuff. And it's just about getting that foot in the door where they do a good job with the initial bit. And so suddenly you see they do, good work and you trust them. And it's like, well, I'm going to try giving her this next bit or giving him this next bit. And before you know it, they're actually doing a ton of stuff for you. And you think, how did I ever live without this person?
No, I get that.
It's interesting because I just thinking about your business, you think, at first you say, oh, well, it would have to be you doing it because you would have such a character to your drawings. But then I was like, wow, well, what if you were drawing everything? Surely any person with some talent in design could learn your layout techniques and the way you package things. And like, what if you cut that and that cut 40% off your time? And next thing you know, like you could get like 6 months or 9 months ahead on packs that were just ready to go out. I mean, it's just amazing to think about, like the things you could do. Someone could learn to lay out and package those things for you. Like it.
Well, you see, now that was going to be my next thing. I'm guilty of another 2 more things that prevent me from hiring somebody.
Okay, go. I kind of want this to be a Help Lisa episode.
Sorry.
Well.
Yeah, but when it's helped one of us, there's always other people in
the same situation.
No, exactly that. I guarantee a lot of people are more in your position than perhaps mine or Dustin's.
So my other problem is that letting go, as we've discussed. I'm a control freak, and assuming that, not assuming they're not going to do it as good as me or how I want it. It's more a case of, it's the two go together. It's a case of, do I have the time that it takes to sit down and take them through step by step what I want, how I want it, that kind of thing. And are they going to
Lisa, you give them like Dustin did with Suzanne and brushes, like Illustrator brushes. He said, go off. He paid her to go off and just learn it. And so you could give them, access to your stuff and just say, go and see what I've done. Thoroughly go through it and see how I put it all together. And then this is what I want for my next one. So rather than you actually sitting down and going with it like that, they study it and they go through it. And
Totally. Yeah, I literally did that. I was just like, I don't
really, because
I realized I was like, well, these don't just take me to do. And I was literally just like, hey, go disappear and learn how to do this. I don't care how long it takes before I hear back. Just disappear and like spend all the time, watch all the videos. Here's where videos are. Here's the products. And it was like such a massive payoff to do.
I should implement that training within Design Cuts. I don't want to hear from you. Just go away and learn.
Yeah.
Well, it was more just like I was like giving her permission, like, hey, like don't feel bad if it takes a long time to learn this, because once you learn it, it's worth so much to us.
Yeah.
Because that could be like, when you like, I really want to learn this, and you're like, just don't have the time. You could get someone else to do it for you to learn it all. And then, you've got, it's like literally a part of you being able to do that thing for your business, I suppose.
Yeah.
I think because we've got a limited time in the week of just how much we can work, sometimes that stops us from, pushing to a different level and trying new things and stuff like that. So I suppose what it will do for you is free up time for you to then either be more effective in getting products out there or having time for yourself to try new things.
Yeah.
You know what's so crazy is that, like, for instance, like with Charles Schultz, that's the dude that made Peanuts, right?
I have no idea. But
I think it was Charles
That's a great
Schultz.
fact.
If I got that wrong, I'm deeply sorry. But like, like Charles Schultz passed away and like he did
Peanuts. Sorry, I thought you meant Yeah. No, I'm being an idiot. I thought you meant like the actual nut, like the discoverer of the peanut.
No. I mean, like the
I was
peanuts,
like, isn't that just someone found it?
Snoopy Charlie Brown, right? Like, so the dude didn't know how to animate, so like he hired animators, and now he's passed away, and people still make all sorts of merchandise with him. So I mean, I think there's like a whole massive amount of people that are just brilliant at replicating the looks of other people's stuff.
Oh, for sure.
I don't know if that's the right way to do it, but it's fascinating.
Yeah, Dustin, Disney, right?
Oh, yeah.
They have so many artists came from one person originally, and now it's lasted for generations, and people capture and learn that style.
Yep.
You could even get them. You could even get them to replicate your style by just going away and just, copying it until they nailed it, and then you could have hundreds of Lisa Glanz stuff. Worldwide brands.
Goodness. It's frightening.
I feel
thought.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel that may not mesh well with your control freak nature. Maybe that's down the road slightly, but my tip would always be with hiring to start small.
Yeah.
Literally toe in the water with the most innocuous minor job on a temporary contract. You're not locked in. You're not responsible for them, and you just try it. And then as soon as it begins to work, you will want to naturally ramp that up over time. You just will, because you will see the value in it. And it's the only way to do it. You can't, talking about it is no good. I would literally go and just pick a job you don't want to do, get someone to do it, and go from there. Yeah,
definitely. Okay, I'm going to do it next
year. Come on. All right, everyone. No, this is not a New Year's resolution. Everyone, we need to get Lisa on record. Thousands of people listening to each episode of the show. So you just went on record saying you're going to hire someone.
I will.
On a temporary basis, but yeah.
So you think there's no job too menial and...
No, think like if people insisted on doing every single job themselves, there would be no industry and unemployment would be ludicrous. Like if every single person insisted on mowing their lawn or like trying to be a landscape gardener, or A, we do a horrendous job at most of these things, and B, there's a ton of people looking for that kind of work who need to pay their bills.
I bet you could go on Twitter or whatever your favorite social platform or wherever you want to do it.
This is Lisa we're talking about.
And
just talking to the non-social.
Your email list, whatever. Like you just go there. I bet if you were just to put out a thing saying, "Hey, I'm looking for somebody potentially, send me some of your work." I bet you'd have so many people, right, that would just love to hang out with you and try to understand how you work and understand your process. And they would probably consider it amazing that you were paying them anything just to be around them. Like they would probably want to pay you practically.
Yes.
I have had a few people and I'm always so keen to hear from them. It's just that I'm in the status of like, as I just described, all those things, the guilt, the time, the everything that goes with it. But you guys are giving me something to think about. So.
Well, so I can think of another benefit, which Dustin kind of hinted at there. I would also say they can give you a level of companionship, to be honest, because I know you like to just crack on and work alone most of the time.
And I'm slightly going insane because of it.
Yeah, I think it's like I think it's good that you do this show and that we all interact and chat. But I also think you don't need to have someone in your office, so you still get your space and you get your alone time. But if you're kind of chatting with someone every day or every couple of days and you're having that interaction, you jump on a video call and have a catch up. I think that's actually a positive aspect on hiring. Certainly for me, having a team now, it feels like I've got this family here every day compared to when I used to work in my bedroom alone. It was kind of depressing at points.
No, it is. It's a benefit. So you guys don't have any issues with the training side if the person is remote. You still think it's successful and it'll work fine?
For sure.
Yeah, 100%. I told you we've got like 6 remote staff, including Ali, who I've talked about quite a lot. And when you talk about jobs also being menial, I think I understand. I've had that worry myself, but I don't think that's necessarily the most positive way to look at it either, because I think there is truly a job for everyone that people enjoy. For example, our CTO, Darren, is an incredible coder, but I would go nuts if I had to stare at code all day. Like that's for him. It's not for me. And he probably wouldn't want to do, in fact, I know he wouldn't want to do my job because he wouldn't want to manage people all day and deal with stuff that comes with that. And we've got a more kind of organizational admin type job, which one of our remote team does.
Mm.
And I probably wouldn't want to do that either because I'm not that organized, but she loves that kind of work. Like literally it'll be like, can you deal with huge volumes of stuff and be super organized? And she like lives for it. Like she's just so good at it. And you can tell she genuinely gets excited by it. So we're all different. And I truly believe there is a role for everyone.
It's, it's a reason why, like I find accounting really hard and I don't enjoy doing it, but accountants love doing accounting stuff. And so,
yeah, exactly.
You get I think that's the reason why we're all different and why it all works.
I'm just expecting the same person to do it all, though. I guess.
Okay, so I've got a good example with that. We have Lizzie on our team, and she's amazing. Yeah, she is brilliant, right? You guys will work with her.
Yeah.
And that felt like the impossible hire because I felt kind of confident hiring for something like customer service. It's a more traditional job, but I didn't even know what to call her job. And it was really because it was
everything.
It was everything, but it was a set of skills which I felt were totally unique to me, couldn't be taught, and were just from my random years of experience. So it was like, okay, so you need to kind of be good at striking up relationships and dealing with people, but you also need to have a good design eye and kind of a design background, but not too much design where doing that other stuff is going to bore you. So we kind of need like a designer, salesperson / doing some admin and various emails, and it was just this like hodgepodge of. I think I wrote it down.
That's what I want.
Yeah, it was like 8 to 10 like random skills which didn't seem to go together. And so for ages, I put that off, and the business suffered as a result because I became the bottleneck. But as soon as we interviewed for it, we found some people weren't suitable, but we interviewed Lizzie and we went, yeah, I think she's the one. And then we trained her up. And soon enough, like she's doing a better job than I did because I was spreading myself too thin, and she's exceptional.
She's great.
And now I think like I could never go back to doing that because it would completely derail where the business is heading now.
Okay, so maybe we should talk about some tips to hiring somebody who is a little bit different to your usual.
Yeah, well, the tip
I really
is
am
really
milking you onto it.
no, it's not, like the tip is literally just do it. Like what we did was
Really?
we put together a job description which kind of said you must be able to do this, this, and all this interests you. We put it out thinking, well, probably no one's going to fit that, and then someone did. And that's it. And I genuinely think like that role is super, super random compared to what you're talking about. You're talking about someone creative who can do a bit of design, but also doesn't mind doing customer service emails. Like that is so achievable. In fact, like if anyone listening to the show right now is like, that sounds like me, I'd love to work with Lisa and look at bunnies all day. Like just hit her up via our website. I hope you don't mind me saying that, Lisa.
No.
You can tell I want this to happen.
Though it would stress her out because you get a load of more emails.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, catch 22. She need to hire one of them to go through them all. So I think probably the biggest benefit of hiring and delegating, which we haven't really gone into, is what you can do with your available time. So I mentioned there, I had become a bottleneck. So if you suddenly cut out 30 or 40 or 50% of your time and then put that into a new 50% of time, which was on your most prolific, impactful work, which is going to help your business, help you grow, whatever it might be, that's a game changer.
That is a game changer. My mind's going ballistic thinking about it.
Yeah, think of all the ideas where you haven't got time to get around to it, or all the products where you haven't got time to make them.
I've got about 20 products like somewhere in my stratosphere of mind that I'm just probably never going to see the light of day.
Yeah, you've got the one we're talking about for everyone listening, secret project going on with Lisa. I'm pretty sure that's going to make you like a gajillionaire because it's the coolest product ever. And you could be doing that right now, but you're doing customer service emails.
No.
Not only customer service.
Sure.
Hey, Kristen. Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully people kind of have seen A, it's possible, and B, there's a lot of benefit to it. have we got any tips from our experience for hiring, for delegating, for training? I'm going to open the floor because otherwise I could just rant on this forever.
I think you can, having a trial period is a good idea just to see if it works out for you and works out for them. And you don't want to.
That's a good point.
Just say, let's try this for a month. See how it goes. 3 months.
That's very smart. Something we've started doing at Design Cuts is a trial half day. And that's kind of part of the interview phase. So if they make it through interview and do well, and we think we want to hire them, as a final step, we get them to come in for like 4 hours and basically work within the team doing the job they will be doing. Because instantly you can see, they actually don't get it at all, and they just kind of blag the interview. Or you can see, they're really taking to that better than the other person who made the kind of short list. And the biggest thing is you can see how they interact with the team, where it's like, okay, they're good at what they do, but actually they really don't gel with the team. And at the end of the trial shift, we get them to break out to the social area in the office, and everyone just fires random questions at them, like, what's your favorite food? Like, have you got any crazy hobbies? And everyone kind of just chats for 10 minutes. And I just sit back and watch it and think, yeah, I can imagine this person being part of this group, or no, they don't really fit.
Okay. It's a little bit creepy, but yeah. No, I'm kidding. It sounds good.
I'm happy to own that role.
Something that's been helpful to me is, I think a 3-month trial or a month trial is good. And the people that I've worked with, I've said that up front. We'll try it for this long, and there's no commitment here. Like, this is just to see if it works. But after that, I've noticed that it's really helped me to look at people and say, and observe them and be like, what are you really great at and what are you not? And instead of fighting super hard against it, like, learn to embrace those things. So for instance, there's things with Suzanne that she's absolutely brilliant at that weren't things I knew I needed. But instead of trying to like confine her to, like, for instance, she's very good with her hands. So she does hand-drawn illustrations that we use, or she really took to creating the I Want It All boxes we make and assembling those. And she was really pushed us towards making those because that was something that embraced something she loved doing. So I found that by not trying to confine things to my own world, but by trying to adjust to the winds, so to speak,
that's a good point.
That helps. If they're a good person, I think it's worth doing that for them, and they'll excel in that way.
That's definitely something which I've experienced as well, and I do think it's a very good approach. Like, obviously within reason. If they're like, "Wow, I love nothing more than doing the river dance" or something, it's like, okay, you can't stand and do that all day. But yeah, in general, if they are naturally gravitating towards it, in fact, we've done that with like every team member where they've expressed an interest in something, and you kind of just let them run with it. And usually there's a way to work that into their role where you get a return as a business. They're happier. They feel listened to.
Good point.
And it adds like a layer of character and personality. That's something I didn't expect at first, but I love about working with other people is I'm only so good at so many things, and it's a very limited band of things that I'm moderately decent at. So the more people that I work with, the richer the business becomes, the more fresh ideas come in of things that I would have considered impossible on my own. And it just makes for a more fun environment. It makes the products better. It makes things more interesting and just more tasty.
Yeah, and you still, I'm thinking of you here, Lisa, you still retain control. You still get the final say, but it's like Dustin said earlier about that triangle theory. I found exactly the same thing here. It's like suddenly we have a pool of people with ideas and direction, and they all kind of sway and have an impact upon where things head. And you can be confident. It's like, okay, well, I get the final call, and that's my job and my decision. But it's really helpful. Just like with design work, if you can feed it off people and be like, what do you think? It's great. You get like a few different angles you wouldn't even have thought of.
So how would you, if you are a designer that has a very strong connection, or I don't know what you call it, obsession, I don't, whatever, about your own design aesthetic. Okay. So you're really attached to this. How do you guys let it go? Like Ian and Dustin and Tom, I mean, you all at some point are allowing somebody else's design aesthetic to express your company or your product, or How do you deal with that?
I don't feel like
I
they
don't
do.
know.
They do. I feel like most people acclimate. I mean, in any business, when you hire a designer, they acclimate. I mean, some of them bring
Okay.
little extra tastes to it, but
And you've never had an issue that they were off the mark?
What is off the mark, though? Is it only off the mark for what you're looking for?
Mm.
You have to think about, for me, I think about what the audience is looking at, because my taste is very one-dimensional.
Mm.
You know, they're looking at it from another angle, and you have to think about what the audience is looking at. So
True.
it could be the case that you're seeing stuff that no one else will ever see. It's just
true.
because you're so close
Caught
to
up
what
in
you
your
do.
own stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and also it's what kind of feedback loops and training is for. So
Yeah.
again, to give the example of Ali, who helps us with design work, at first, funny enough, day one, it's not like she nailed it out the gate because it was a completely new aesthetic. So initially there were more rounds of feedback, but you have to view that time as an investment to save you time down the road. And so now, a month or two on, she's actually getting it right much more often than not. And she's like vastly more within our aesthetic. And that's only natural. And I really do think you talked before about, the time training and so on. But it's that classic thing. It's like, would you rather spend 3 days now to free up 1 hour every day for the next 2 years? It's like, yeah, because that makes mathematical sense. That really adds up. But I think it's human nature to get stuck in the rut of just doing it the same old way rather than breaking that pattern.
It's true.
And I have to fight that as well. But whenever we hire someone, I typically will spend between 3 days and a week training them up all day. And then I'll do my own work in the evening. So I have like a bit of a stressful week, but then I come out the other side better off for it. And that's kind of me set for like months or years.
Okay, so I've just got to build that in, basically. Okay, yeah.
I feel like we've been bullying, ganging up on.
Well, what's new?
Yeah.
And the difference is? No, I'm kidding.
The thing is, the only way to test what we're saying is to try it. And you can do that by just saying, if you find someone, just saying, look, I just want to try it. Let's try one job, one product, just try it, see if you can see it working. It might be the case it's like, okay, I don't want to do this. It's just going to be too stressful for me. But, it might be the case that, oh, hang on, this gives me a glimpse of what I could be doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So are there any other aspects of hiring and delegation which immediately spring to mind that we haven't covered? I can think of one, which is a horrible one. Firing people.
Oh, I've had a bad experience.
Shall we get into that? Because if we're advocating how great hiring is, unfortunately, almost everyone who hires, in fact, I don't know anyone who hires people who hasn't had to fire someone. What was your experience?
Okay, you go first.
No, please, you take the reins.
No, but mine involved a mentally unstable person.
Oh,
Oh, really? Okay. Were they setting fire to their socks and running around the office? That kind of thing.
Well, she was threatening to kill herself because I wanted to fire her. So it became really scary and nasty. So yeah,
I didn't know that. That's much worse than anything I've had to deal with.
Wow, it was a horror show for me because as it was, and I felt terrible that I had to fire her because she just wasn't doing the job, and she kept giving me lip, and she just didn't want to be there. But she was going through a lot of stuff in her life, and you give them chances, you try and get them to sort their stuff out. But it just started impacting so severely on her job that eventually we, after obviously going, because there are laws, you can't just fire somebody after going through all the steps and the motions and all
really?
the rest.
You can here.
What, you just fire them?
Oh, kind of, yeah. It's like if they've been
really?
Yeah, if they need to have been with you for a long time, but if they've been with you a few months, yeah.
No, we have to have like written warnings and verbal warnings and all sorts of things. Okay, well, anyway, so we'd given her lots and lots of chances to kind of get herself together, and unfortunately she just didn't, and I had to let her go, and it turned into a horror show. I mean, a screaming match, crying match, yeah,
Oh,
it was
no.
not pretty.
Do you think that's why you're very reserved about getting someone to help
Maybe
you?
because I just have. I mean, obviously it was so terrible because I knew, she did the whole guilt trip. She's not gonna have enough money to feed her children, and it was terrible. So yeah, I mean, it was...
no wonder you're reticent about hiring. This is starting to make sense. That sounds considerably worse than most people's experiences I've ever heard of. So I think you really just got unlucky there.
And I know it was just one of those freak moments.
Yeah. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, so
go with the normal story, please.
Yeah. So I'm not going to get into specifics because I don't think that would be right given our profile and so on. But what I would say is it's always going to be the worst part of any job, unless you're a horrible person. But unfortunately, it's almost like a necessary evil. Like it honestly, like lose sleep over it. It can be so emotionally devastating, and I know friends who run businesses, and often it's not even that you dislike the person or anything like that. It can be all manner of reasons. It could be they're a solid person, but they're not the right fit with the team. It could be that they're not really suited to the job. It could be they're not doing a good enough job. Like there's endless reasons why it could be. But I think the best way to think about it is that you're trying to look after the wider whole. So you're actually trying to protect not only the business and not only yourself, but you're trying to protect the wider team if you have one. And you're trying to, even more than that, you're trying to protect the culture in many cases. And so that doesn't really make it any easier. But yeah, I wouldn't say I've got any kind of bulletproof tips on that front. It's just you will know when you need to do it. I think my tip would be, and this is the same for every business person I've talked to, it's better to do it earlier because it's only going to get harder. If you imagine, like, I think it was the head of Yahoo said, someone asked him how he was so great at hiring, and he went, I'm not good at hiring. I just fire people quicker. And I think that makes so much sense because you imagine if you're starting to get an inkling that someone's not really the right fit or they're not really going to work out, and it's a month in, and you just let that ride out for like 18 months or 3 years or something, and the problems start mounting up. It's not a good fit for them. It's not a good fit for you. You would much rather after a month say, sorry, this isn't working out. Good luck. Than after 3 years be like, okay, now you've got a career. Sorry, it's not working out. So I think it's always good to act quicker, and it's good to be vigilant and look out if someone is actually going to be a good fit or not, because it just causes more damage, and no one wants to be in a job where they don't feel comfortable or they don't feel like it's the right fit for them. Like generally it's kind of reciprocal. Even if they would hate getting fired, they probably deep down know it's, ultimately there's something out there which would be a better fit for them.
Yeah. Good point.
Anyway, going dark there, but unfortunately that's just part and parcel. So something we haven't touched on as well is managing. We kind of talked about the initial steps of perhaps getting the person or understanding that it's right to get the person, but we haven't talked about how to actually, handle training them that much and working with them week to week. I don't know about you guys. I feel like we could perhaps leave that for a full episode.
I was going to say, isn't that a whole episode in itself? I'd love that one.
Yeah, I think it could be because it's like the other side of the coin, because we've talked about how we work with clients as designers, but the other side of the coin, like it's almost what's it like from the client perspective.
Yep.
Could almost fit under like a project management episode or something too.
Yeah. That would be cool to talk about actually, because that is a big one. I don't know about you guys. I naturally suck at that. I've had to really force myself to use the right systems and stuff. Cool. Well, I feel like I want to end on a positive note now.
I know, because it's been a bit of a downer, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. So Lisa, are you going to promise the listeners that you're going to go and give some lucky person an opportunity to work with you?
I've already promised Cliff, my other half, that next year is hiring year. Because,
Well, okay. Well, that's the final positive note, right? It's not just
Yes.
holidays. It's also it's time with your partner and it's work-life balance. We didn't even talk about that stuff, but I'm sure Cliff would love to be sat there drinking a glass of red wine with you.
Yes. Yeah. No, he thinks I'm going to explode one day, so he knows I need somebody.
Yeah. I can see, like, you can only work so hard for so long.
I know. Yeah.
Cool.
I'd say too, for me, it's like it's this whole other area that if you have the opportunity where it comes up and you're starting to feel like maybe you need somebody, it's probably a good time to start experimenting with it. And for me, I was really afraid to do it, and it's been so fulfilling. So if it's coming your way, like, to wade into it a little bit, try a couple little things and try it, because for me, it's been so rewarding. I mean, I've met amazing people. It's helped my business. It's just, it really is a positive experience, and the downsides of it are so minimal compared to the amazing experiences and benefits you get out of it.
Yeah, completely agree. I just had a final quote pop in my head, actually. But if you continually find you're putting off the same job, you should delegate it. So we all have those jobs, right, on the calendar where it's like, I'll move it to tomorrow, and then I'll move it to tomorrow. Yeah. And it is so refreshing when you finally just give it to someone else and you're like, oh, like, it's off of my calendar at last.
Even though it only took 10 minutes or whatever it would have only taken. It's just, it's emotional or mentally,
Oh, it stresses you out, But no, I had to get that in there. But I do think, as a kind of main closing sentiment, I'm 100% behind Dustin. I think it is a positive thing ultimately, and working with amazing, talented, lovely people, like there's nothing better. It's much better than being in a bubble, I think. Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. We hope that it showed you how hiring doesn't always have to be scary, but how it can have a huge impact upon your creative business. As always, you can find full show notes over at honestdesigners.com, or find us over on iTunes by searching for The Honest Designers Show. If today's episode helped you, then it would mean the world to all four of us if you took just a moment to leave us a quick review on iTunes. This is literally one of the best ways for your fellow creatives to discover the show, and we would really, really appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next week right here on The Honest Designers Show.